What's up, everybody? Hard Money Bankers live show today. I actually didn't screw up my scheduling. I confirmed with Frank this morning. So here with my partner, Ryan Walsh, but the real man of the hour is Frank DeFazio. So, Frank, what's going on, man?
Not much, guys. Nice to meet you guys virtually.
Yeah.
I've been big fans on Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah, so I think we have people in common. I didn't realize prior did you spend some time at KW Philadelphia and then you moved over to Berkshire Hathaway? Now you're the founder of Center City Team?
Center City Team. There's a lot of Center City teams. So
right.
Listings, Center City Condos, Center City Homes. But mine's called Center City Team. I started, believe it or not, in the sales industry, there's a history. I started for a guy named Antonio Atacan, who happened to you know Antonio? So Antonio is one of Mike McCann's best friends. Yep. They race Porsches together, I don't know, like in the Poconos or something. But I started with Antonio in 2006. And actually, my wife started before me. She was a realtor. And Antonio started Keller Williams Philadelphia, which is now called Keller Williams Philadelphia. It wasn't then, but at Keller Williams Philadelphia about a week after my wife started. And while things were up and running, she was working out of his living room at his house. So I ended up joining Antonio's team when I got out of law. I was a lawyer. I worked at Morgan Lewis for about 18 months. And I joined Antonio's team, and we worked at the St. James, directly on the other side of the square from the Fox and Roach office. And eventually it moved up to Rittenhouse. But in 2009, I left. So I worked for Keller Williams Philadelphia from 2006 to 2009. In 2009, I joined David Snyder's team, Center City Listings, as a buyer's agent. And for 2 years, Maria and I worked there. And then in June 1st of 2011, I started Center City Team on my own at Prudential Fox and Roach, which is now Berkshire Hathaway Fox and Roach.
Gotcha. Okay, so now the story makes sense. I have Pam Rosser. I think you know her. I know her. She's but she's a fellow Berkshire agent, so she says hi. So what's going on, Pam?
Hi, Pam.
So Frank, I know with you just through the grapevine that the reason we have people on the show, we've had a lot of people that are market movers, shakers, know what you're doing kind of guys, girls. And you're one of them, without a doubt. And I believe you've also gotten into quite a bit of development as well over the years. Does that sound about right?
Yeah. So I started out just sales. I bought my first rental. I only buy multifamily rentals. I don't have any commercial. I have one condo that I lived in, and I have one single family that my brother coerced me into buying. But essentially, my model is multifamily rentals. All residential. It was 2 to 4 units. I've gotten some larger ones now, but I started buying those in April of 2009, and I've been trying to buy 1 or 2 a year ever since. And in 2016, I'd started doing development because, I was sourcing all these deals for people and then watching them walk away with these enormous checks. So I was like, I could do this. Why can't I do this? Right. I actually ended up partnering. I kind of have a couple different models, but one of them is I partner with a builder. I've hired some builders, and I actually have one full-time contractor that works for me that I've known for a million years. So I kind of have the full gambit of I have a residential sales and leasing team. I have a multifamily portfolio of properties, and I'm doing currently 1, 2, 3, at any time between 5 and 10 development deals. I'm building an 8-unit building. I'm building a 4-unit building. I'm building 5-unit condominium. I'm building a really nice house on 24th and Delancey, which I'd love to plug. And I'm building 2023 St. Albans. So a single family home sold for $950 on the 2000 block of St. Albans. Yeah.
So, I mean, for anybody listening, that's a lot going on for one individual. It really is, man. Like, I look at something like that and I'm like, I think of like a single family flip, and I'm like, the pain in the butt that takes to correctly execute, let alone what you just described, the dollar figures that you're dealing with. These aren't $100,000 properties. These are real big boy properties. What was the one you wanted to plug? Which one specifically? Why too? What did you like about it?
Well, I bought. I'm going to give you guys the real talk here, since this is having a good time. It's COVID, double lockdown. I bought I actually tried to buy 2407 Delancey 2 years ago from this really cool guy named Parker who bought it. And Parker wanted to do a renovation. So one of my models is I'll take a 2-story home, add a 3rd floor, dig the basement, gut reno it from top to bottom, legitimize the parking, get the 10-year tax abatement, essentially double the square footage, and then flip it to an end user. Because the 2-story homes in Philly, especially in Graduate, they're just antiquated layouts. The square footage is insufficient. It doesn't work for modern families. So I tried to buy this 2-story home from a guy who was going to sell it to me with plans and permits. And he calls me and he goes, well, I have a little problem. It's a by right build, but it's a weird configuration and the home doesn't have any frontage. So the neighbors are challenging the L&I definition of frontage to L&I. So they challenged it to L&I. They challenged it to the Commonwealth Court. They lost. They challenged it to the appellate court and then lost. So in that amount of time, a whole year went by, and finally comes back to me and goes, well, here's a court order. You can build the house. I said, all right, I'll take it. So I bought this one that my highest sale to date was I built a $1.8 million house at 2600 in Aldane with my brother. And this was going to be like kind of, all right, let's get into like the 2, maybe pushing 3 range. And of course, like the worst possible like chaos unforeseen by anyone in the world broke out. So at this point, we're not sure how it's going to play out. We're building it. We're really excited about it. But, we got it for a good number. We're into it for a number where we can't lose any money. And if we make any money, we'll be really happy. But that's why I wanted to plug that one, because we were going to list it at 2.7. Now it might be 2.5 or 2.2. We're not even 100% sure.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, it's crazy when you get to those big numbers. You look at that and you go, I think about like a 10% drop, and I'm like, a lot of loans I do 100, 200,000. You're like, 20 grand, 10% drop at 2.5 or 2.7 is, I mean, that's the entire project that I was just funding on a small phase, right? So, you guys, but I think you hit it on the head though at the end of what you just said, which was like, you're not going to lose because you bought right. Like you really this was like the test. Like you're like, hey, do I buy right? Do I really buy low enough? Well, let me tell you, you look at this and go, well, this is a good test to see if I bought right, because this is the reason you buy low for this moment. I think is what people underestimate is like, you don't really buy, you buy to make money, and that's great and all, but you buy not to lose money first.
Right.
And you guys, I think you just said that having that mindset is probably key. You are looking for an area. If you were, because you started in 2008 or 9 in this market, you said, but that story was correct, right?
So I started sales in 2006. I started buying rentals in 2009, and I started development in 2016. So I lived through, as a real estate salesperson, the Great Recession.
So you were there for it.
Yeah, I was there for it. I wasn't doing development, but, I kind of saw it firsthand. I was very young in my career, but I did see it, and, we did survive. We were at a point then where every year you did more volume and made more money because you were on the way up. So, we never really got hit by it. We were lucky, and Philly was lucky because, which I'm sure we're going to talk about, the meds and eds always save us every time.
Sure. And I think, it was, the fact that you saw 2008 and 2009 and whether you were buying and developing or not, didn't really matter. You got the same experience for me. So I got in at 2008 or whatever, right as it was crashing, I was getting in the business, and I'm I got to watch, first of all, who survived, why they survived. And I was like, oh, this is why you buy really low.
Right.
Because you're dead if you don't. You're out. You're gone. So, I think everybody watching this knows who you are, likely, because you're just one of those names in the city. So talk to us about post COVID and on, and then right into holy cow, what the hell is going on right now? But, what's going on with your business and yeah.
Well, I started thinking about that when we had emailed, and I was pumped. I was like, oh, this is cool. I want to do this. And of course, the whole world changed since we first exchanged emails. But I'll give you kind of my thoughts and feelings on all these things. So COVID, first quarter this year compared to first quarter last year, we were actually up in terms of volumes, transactions, sales. So it was poised to be a very strong year, which is, kind of unusual. Everything going on right now is hard to explain, right? The market's rallying and it's doing so well. home prices are going up, sales are through the roof in not only Philadelphia, but other
And the whole
cities.
country's on fire.
It's crazy, and you can't explain it, right? No one has a crystal ball, but I can tell you this. So in terms of COVID, 49 out of 50 states at some point or another determined housing to be essential, construction to be essential. For whatever reason, I'm sure you've seen me like losing my mind on Facebook, but for whatever reason, Governor Wolf decided that it was not essential in Pennsylvania from March 16th to May 1st for construction and for about another 2 weeks for sales. So essentially we were down 45 days for construction and about 65 days for sales. April was a bloodbath, right? March was good. So the way that our business works is we're working hard for 60 days out. So when I shut down on March 16th, I had a ton of closings, I want to say like approaching triple figures through July. So luckily, me and most of my agents weren't really hit. What could happen for us potentially is it could be a rough fall, but it doesn't look like it's going to because of some of the pent-up demand and some of the dynamics, which I'll get into in a second. But April was a bloodbath. We saw half the pending sales. We saw some closings fall off the radar that were supposed to close. And the reason was because technically, we weren't supposed to be showing homes. We were non-essential. We were supposed to sit at home under lock and key. Some agents did, some agents didn't. Either way, the buyers were fearful, the sellers were fearful, the tenants were fearful. You're not working at capacity. You're working at a fraction of capacity. May will probably look, I haven't checked all the May data yet. I don't know if it's in bright or not, but May will probably look something like April. And ever since we opened, it's been insane. So I started looking at the opening data. The Economist had some articles about the 90% recovery. There was some stuff coming out of the West Coast. And what you were seeing was because of the super low inventory, it was creating these little feeding frenzies. So if you put a house on the market, it was in good condition, it was priced right, there were 10 families for one home. And we started seeing similar stuff here in Philly. All the stuff that wasn't selling is now selling. Again, I'm just constantly putting the stuff on social media, under contract, sold, just listed, pending. It's been insane. So I think that once we can kind of get onto a trajectory of going back towards normal, things will be good. Right now, in the meantime, this guy, George Floyd, was killed in Minneapolis. I think all of us, no matter where you fall on the political spectrum, I think everyone can acknowledge at this point that we need to fix this justice system, which is not fair for everyone. It needs to be fair for everyone. And, so now we're here in the double lockdown where people are protesting, there's rioting, the city already has a gaping hole in its budget. Now they're paying for this. Governor Wolf has come out and said he's going to help. We may or may not be at odds with the federal government who wants to shut it down. So we have all this kind of chaos. There's a ton of uncertainty. No one knows what's going to happen. But as soon as there's a drop of normalcy, people start buying homes immediately because there's low inventory. Housing is essential. People need places to live. And rates are now, again, I feel like a broken record. I've been saying this since 2016, but all-time low, great time to buy. You've been seeing this on our websites and blogs. My friends in my fantasy football league make fun of me. Anytime I say anything, they respond with great time to buy, great time to sell, historically low interest rates.
My friends use, or like my buddies, or George Beatty, I don't know if you've ever seen him, but they always joke around me always talking about cycles. But that's like my thing. Like, there's Ian talking about cycles again. But it is like, you're not wrong. Like if you look at the numbers in the paper, you're just like, I mean, I look at the and you talk about like the pent up aggression for buying. I've noticed it. I noticed it personally. Actually, I had because I've been looking in the suburbs for a house pre all this for actually like 2 years just for like the house that I want. And I saw this one came up and I was like, nice, it's run down. I know what I'm getting into. I'm going to call up. I'll probably get like a great discount on it. And this was in the middle of COVID, like April, I think it was.
Yeah.
Or no, right after April. It was like right after the rate drop. And I call up and I said, okay, I'm going to put an offer in for whatever. And she was like, yeah, nice try. Like I got 10 offers this morning. And I was like, it came on the market this morning. What are you talking about? But there's this weird, like people are just ready. Like they're like, can we, as soon as we get past this, it's just like this jumping phase of people looking to get the help into a new house on the market. Like it's a weird time. I don't think I'm not, you and I survived 2008, 2009. This isn't comparable, but the guys that I've been talking to, like you said, like McCann and guys that have been 3 or 4 cycles, they're like, this is different. This is weird. Like, we don't even know what to make of it, Yeah. So what do you think's coming? Like, do you possibly think we could bounce back with that kind of speed, or do you think we're artificially creating its own short-term bubble right into something else right now?
I think it's somewhere in the middle, and real estate always, I forget who said it, but I've heard it my whole career, and it's absolutely true. Real estate is local like the weather. So you don't want to paint with too broad of a brush, right? Like the West Coast will be different than the East Coast. Miami, where they throw up 10,000 condos, they get hit differently. Philly is always, we don't go too high. We don't go too low. There's a lot of primary residences. There's not a ton of investment. I mean, there's investment, but it's not like some of these cities where it's all second homes, beach homes, investment properties. Like we're predominantly primary residences in a city of people who live here and work here, right? Mm-hmm. And thankfully through all of the problems that we've had in my career, meds and eds save us every time. The hospitals are always making money. They don't really lay people off. For the most part, that was true here. There were some issues kind of for a week or two there where they weren't doing electives, and it looked like some of the hospitals were really struggling. I had heard Rothman was like not doing well at all because, those the elective surgeries are very profitable for them. And then ed. So the universities, the professors, these people don't really lose their jobs. They're always in high demand. They're essential workers. So that's kind of what makes up the majority of our, 10 or 12 zip code radius that we have in the greater Center City area. So I think personally, I'm seeing what you're seeing. I'm seeing it's insane. Prices are going up, which defies logic. Like markets going up, which I don't even understand how that's happening.
The Fed, right? That's the deal.
It doesn't make any sense, right? So my feeling is if there is a correction, which you would have to say at some point we were going towards a correction, a recession, a plateau, whatever the word is, feels like it would probably be in the fall or winter, like later this year. If there's a second spike in this coronavirus and, people get nervous or we have to, God forbid, shut down again, that could be an impact. Schools, I don't know if you guys have kids, but everyone's talking about who's going back, who's not, student rentals, Drexel and Temple. I'm following that very closely. It seems like they're all going back right now. But then you hear that the University of California shut it down till January. So that makes you a little nervous, right? Because things tend to flow from west to east. My feeling is we're going to be good. All the pent-up demand from March and April is going to buy homes in, June and July. There traditionally is kind of like the dog days of summer in August where people are at the beach and then the kids go back to school in September. Who knows if any of those things are going to happen this year? There might not be a beach. There might not be a boardwalk. There might not be rides. There might not be school. So everyone's trying to figure that out. But I think in the short term, there's definitely going to be a lot of demand for real estate and low inventory, right? Because no one's selling if they don't have to right now. And so that's going to put even more pressure on the inventory. I think that as some of the financial pain from these businesses starts to hit home, some of these forbearances, remember, they'll give you a 3-month forbearance, and then on the 4th month, you have to pay 4 months. I think some people may not understand that or the consequences of that. I think we'll start feeling that stuff in the fall, maybe winter, and that's where you'll see some foreclosures, some pre-foreclosures, some REO sales, some of these businesses that can't open back up. I think essentially the way I feel right now is that we're still in the middle of the battle, and we haven't been able to assess the battlefield. We don't know who's alive, who's dead, what's going on. So we kind of have this little interim period where everything's great, but we don't know what the full effects are going to be. We don't even know who's going to be president leading us out of this, right? Like I remember in 2016, I would show homes, and right around this time, a few months before the election, I would joke around and say, like, we don't know. We could have Donald Trump as president, and everyone, right?
Yeah.
I remember this vividly, and then it happened. So, it could be Biden, it could be Trump, it could be somebody else. I don't know that it's 100% clear who it's going to be at this point. But I think that's going to impact a lot, kind of the recovery and what direction they're taking are we going to be very loose with the money? Or are we going to be more restrictive with the money?
Frank, what's your plan like for the 24th and Delancey there? So, I mean, you were saying you're going to try at 2.7 at first, right? Do you have like a contingency plan? Like, all right, we're going to leave it there for a few months and then knock it down? Or what's your kind of the micro of that?
I got my permit on March 15th and then wasn't able to do the demo because we locked down on March 16th. So we opened up on May 1st, and my demo guy, who's awesome, I actually just got an email from one of the neighbors today saying how nice he is and how respectful and clean. He's the best. Jeff at Allstate Demo is his name, Jeff Kurtz. And he told me on May 1st that, he would need about a week, 10 days, and we basically just finished. So things are moving very slowly. A lot of that has to do with the city. I think permits, you're not even allowed to do residential demo if it's supported by a party wall. They have all these like weird rules of what you can and can't do. So already started demo. We're building a single family home. It's 21 feet wide, 2-car garage, 4,100 square feet, elevator. It's going to be awesome.
That's wild. Do you have that on your site here? Do you have any of the shots on your site by any chance?
No, it's not up yet. It might be on Instagram, but I can tell you, we bought it for just over $1 million. We're probably looking at, we'll be all in around like 1.8, 1.9. So it's going to be hard for us to we at least will get our money back, right? Like,
I mean, if we go down to that number, we got bigger problems. I don't think you're worried. We're all got bigger problems.
In all honesty, the development is like my side hustle. It's like Uber for me. I just, was bored. We had kids. I don't go out anymore. I sit at home, and it just is something that I enjoy doing that really isn't like my core business is sales. And then, I've been buying rentals since I was a kid, and I don't have a lot of hobbies. I don't have a beach house. I don't have a Lamborghini. So, if you do this the right way and you control your costs, it's not that hard to get to a point where your passive income can cover your expenses, right? The issue becomes when you start joining country clubs and buying fancy watches and buying boats, and
you got to look the look.
Living like a rock star. I live like a bum. I mean, you see, I have like an Under Armour t-shirt on. But, I just really like real estate. I'm kind of, it's kind of like I'm a real estate junkie. I'm sure you've seen Mike. A lot of us are the same. Alan, anyone who has a team, like we're all Noah, David, we're all
just love it.
Real estate.
Yeah, you just love it. Really. That's
I was playing Monopoly with my kid the other day. He's 9. His name's Jackson. And I looked down and I had literally like 30 properties and like $1. And I'm like, Jack, this is like exactly a parallel of Daddy's life. Every time I get money, I just buy another building and I'm broke. So we're building this. I partnered with Sean Pincus, the guy who owns Grit Construction. I don't know if you know him or not, but he's the best. You should definitely have him on if you haven't already.
I don't know him.
Runs 2 or 3 businesses, kind of like I do. Nicest guy in the world. Super smart. Young guy. He's like 34. And oh man, where was I going? I totally just blanked out.
Well, you were joking about Monopoly, and then you had, and you were talking about, being, you buy another house, have no cash, kind of.
Oh, right. That's what I say. So we're building an 8-unit building on 35th, just south of Spring Garden on Drexel's campus. And I bought in 2016 two buildings that were next to each other on 34th and Spring Garden, and they've been great. They've been cash cows. My tenants are awesome. Their families are awesome. They're really great properties. So these 2 little 1-stories came up, and Sean and I bought them, and we're building an 8-unit building there, which is almost done. Tenants move in 2 months. It's got 24 beds. They're all 3-bed, 3-bath units. And we were having some beef with the neighbor and blah, blah, blah. So right in the middle of the pandemic, where, of course, I'm not essential, I'm not working, I'm not making any money, I'm essentially unemployed for the first time in my life, we get a call. The neighbor had gotten into a lawsuit, and essentially this property that abutted both of our properties, ours and this other guy who was suing him, was now available. But he calls us on a Friday, and he's like, you got to buy it on Monday, cash. So through the pandemic, we bought this lot for $100,000 more than we should have. It's insane. But now essentially we're going to have a 12-unit building all next to each other.
Oh, wow.
Sean's managing all that chaos. He's a character. You guys would have fun with him.
Okay, yeah, that sounds like a good interview. That's a good perspective, guy doing, we haven't had anybody with that kind of perspective. But so I think it's interesting what Ryan said about the your contingency plan. We got the student housing stuff coming up. You're right. Like we're in the middle of a battle. We don't know where things are right now. It's almost like it's definitely not resting. We're not in a resting phase. Maybe the real estate industry is in some sort of weird resting phase, but the world isn't. But there will be a moment of breath. I mean, it could just be, as the riots settle in, after that, it's going to be like everybody's going to like assess the battlefield after that, right? Like, pick up the casualties and figure it out. I do think it's really, really unique right now in that obviously the thing that happened was terrible, and Philadelphia, though, specifically in the midst of all the rioting, I know all the other cities are having pretty tough time as well, but Philadelphia seems to be extremely it escalated fast. Have you seen any of it? Like, I haven't been into the city since. I'm sure you have, obviously. So
yeah, so I live on right near 21st and Locust on a small street, and they, now, so we saw what happened on Walnut and Chestnut. Some of the rioters came up to like 21st and Locust. One of my listings, now this was actually not this riot, but prior to this riot, during the pandemic, there was a guy he bought Hahnemann Hospital and then closed it down. It went out of business. He also bought a home on the corner of 21st and Locust and renovated it. And then when he left Philadelphia around this Hahnemann thing, he listed it with us. So I was on the cover of Philly.com for this one listing that's owned by this Hahnemann Hospital guy. And people were spray painting it. So I've been dealing with a lot of like spray painting, window breaking. It seems like ever since March, that's been like all that's everywhere, all four corners of my house. So yesterday, the protesters, I'm sure you saw this online, were at 676 and 22nd Street, which is, a few blocks from my house. There were cops on every corner. I think there's a difference between the protesters that are doing like legitimate, peaceful things. And it seems like, if you believe the news, which God knows what you can believe anymore, but it seems like there's some people on the far left and the far right that are coming in and they're trying to create havoc and mayhem and they're causing violence. And it's not really the peaceful people, maybe some fights are breaking out or whatever, but it seems like there's almost these paid, I don't know if you're following this, but it seems like there's people that are coming in on purpose from out of state, of all states, and starting.
Suggested for sure. Like I've seen people posted like the flyers, like get paid, like they're saying like George Soros and all this. I'm like, it's so far beyond even knowing what's real at this point. And I think we were just saying on the show yesterday that like the one thing that this was done for the George Floyd, it's sparked by it. And every time somebody goes out and riots, or every time somebody goes out and breaks something, it dilutes the message. I think, and I think because. But you're right. Like 99% of the people are probably peaceful protests. It just doesn't make a headline watching people, peaceful protests. So then you get, the news agencies vomiting, and some of the stuff is terrible to watch. Like some of the stuff they do get, you're like, dude, like we're here because of police brutality. You're doing that right now, like and then you have police also policing each other as well, which is so, dude, it's pretty wild. I think stepping back though from it all is important. I don't mean like laying down and like not paying attention. I think everybody has a moral obligation to take a stance in some direction. But from the real estate perspective, I said the exact same thing. I think, Ryan, we just said this yesterday, right? We said we think, and traditionally, right, just take the historics of it. Like a crash, 3 to 6 months is the lag from the actual market crash to the real estate industry seeing it, which lines up exactly right within what you just said and we just talked about yesterday. So August and September, I think we'll have the ramifications of whatever we're going to see, whatever number that's going to be. Have you see enough deals? I mean, you see enough stuff in front of you. Have you seen any comps pre-COVID, post-COVID that have surprised you in either direction? Because I know I've seen a couple, not enough to say a market shift has happened. Have you seen any?
Sporadically, like one here, one there. Like I have one where someone's like, I just want to move it. The ones that I've seen weren't really like COVID related. It was more just like white flag, like I'm giving up. Like, you know what? I don't care. I'll lose money on that deal. I just don't want to be involved in this anymore. Or, whatever. I want to sell that condo because I have this other opportunity in my core business that's so much better. I think there's some of that going on, but we haven't really seen like the en masse, large scale, nothing like obviously 08, 09. And we probably won't see that ever again, right? Because at the end of the day, like what happened that caused all this? Well, there was a pandemic, a virus jumped species and spread from another country to this country throughout the whole world. So it's not like there were these like structural issues with the economy where appraisers were appraising too high and lenders were giving predatory loans and agents were just telling people to buy $2 million homes they couldn't afford. You didn't really have that. Like all along, even up to today, the lenders are still like pretty, scrupulous about how they're doing the lending. The appraisers took the brunt of the last thing, so they're always covering their rear ends now. If anything, to be honest with you, the jumbo loans have kind of gone away. The credit requirements are more stringent since during the COVID, not pre-COVID to post-COVID. Like while that was happening, some of the loan products have disappeared, which sucks for everybody because people want to buy houses, but it's probably good for the greater good. My feeling is, and again, it's so hard to say, but it depends on who's going to be the president, what their policies are going to be. It seems like, the smart people, and going back to 08, 09, if you pump money into the economy and people have jobs and can pay their bills and pay their rent, that pays dividends. It seems like the austerity stuff where you start cutting back and tightening the belt buckle in other countries doesn't work. I'm not an economist. I have no idea. But to me, my impression is if they're going to keep being loosey-goosey with the money and helping people pay their bills, then we're probably going to be fine.
I like it. I think it's a fair assessment. You seem like a very even keel guy in general. I know this is our first time meeting. Fantasy football, though, that's an interesting. Are you a big fantasy football player?
Love fantasy football. Love football.
Okay, so all right. So are you an Eagles fan?
Of course. What do you mean? I was
in the room with a Cowboys and a Giants fan.
Dude, I'll tell you what. For some reason, I hate the Giants more than I hate the Cowboys, just because I don't know why. Just growing, even when we went to see Coldplay in Giant Stadium, and I stood at the line, like the threshold, for a few minutes, and I said to my wife, like, I don't know if I can go in here. Coldplay's awesome, but
get along. You and Ryan won't get along, but you and I will get along just fine. The only guy,
dude. Honestly, like I can't wait to watch football and basketball again. I like soccer. I like all sports. I like Tom Brady. I just love sports.
Yeah.
How relief was watching that format with Tiger and Phil, and like I was like, this is the greatest sporting event I've ever seen in my life, and it was only because of this whole thing. You're like, holy cow, we need sports so bad right now, right? Like,
and The Last Dance.
Oh yeah! Oh my gosh! Like it became like the most watched thing ever, and we were ready for sports back. I'm like, I like my DraftKings app. I like gambling too, so I need it. I need it all back.
I don't gamble. My friends do. I'm telling you, I'm like a real estate junkie. When we would go to Vegas for like bachelor parties, or we go to AC for the night. We do our draft. I don't have the patience to gamble. I'll spend like $1,700 on like a bar tab, but refuse to gamble $1 because I can't lose my money.
That's funny you say that. I'm not a huge fan of gambling like roulette, right? But I am. Me and Ryan play DraftKings every day. This is completely off topic, but I should tell you.
It's real talk, man. It's COVID real talk.
It's COVID real talk. So the DraftKings has been running these promotions. I think they're trying to IPO or something, and they're trying to retain usership, right? So they run these promotions every day. I'm talking like $5 or $10 promotions, which is nothing. But if it gives you an edge gambling, and I like having an edge. So you buy a piece of real estate, you have an edge when you can buy low. Like I like having an edge when I play. So for whatever reason, I swear I've had some wins that were like $20 in DraftKings because there was like I could hedge against a bet or something they put out as like an offer. And I would make like, a few $1,000 that day in like a real estate deal. And I can tell you from my heart, I was more excited than that $20 for hedging in DraftKings because it was like, I don't know. So anyways, so we're always in there. I'm not a fan though of playing against an edge. Like you said, like roulette or something. That's probably why you don't like to do it because the odds are stacked against you. Why would I play something the odds are stacked against me? And that's just probably a mentality thing. I don't feel comfortable playing something.
I just like to drink and hang out. I don't have the patience to sit there. Like my best friend, he was at one point was a professional poker player, and he would play 16 screens in his house, like in his underwear at the same time. And he'll go sit in these poker tournaments for like hours. Like he won't eat, he won't bathe.
Yeah.
I can't. I'm like looking for a cocktail waitress and like looking for music. Like I just can't. I need a drink and you know, I'm not even that big of a drinker, but I just can't sit still. I'm like energy. I got to keep moving.
I got you. Well, Frank, so a couple things. How, if people want to get in contact with you, you know, you're a really, really easygoing guy. You're cool dude. So, you know, if you want to join your team or maybe sell you another building for $1 million, you know, how do people get a hold of you? Like, what's the easiest way?
I'm like the easiest person on earth to find. My like cell phone is like in every magazine and every hanging out in front of people's houses. So the website is centercityteam.com. My email is frank@centercityteam.com. I'm telling you, my 6-year-old could find me on Google. It's very easy. That's the website. That doesn't look bad. I might have to update.
I actually like the site a lot. I actually like it. I like when there's
a lot from day to night, and then you see like the UFOs start coming from left to right. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I like. It's a good site. It's good. So what
now? I put a lot of the 3D. I'm doing all Matterport. I'm all digital now.
Oh, sweet! I saw that before we skip. Yeah, actually, I saw that. I love Matterport. I think it's the coolest.
So that's actually an Instagram post. If you go up to the top menu and you click on virtual/3D, you can find some of them there.
I think that is just the coolest thing. When I first saw that a few years ago, I was like, when you go through like
Gregory Lane, that's a big house. The one in Newtown Square, Gregory Lane.
That looks like a nice place.
And then the Matterport link is right there. Yeah, so now you can play with it. And dude, it's so cool. And it gives you a plan. So that's one thing, you know, if you're in sales or if you're in marketing or you're building your own stuff or you're leasing your own stuff. I use a company called Alcove Media. I think they charge me like $500 and I get pictures, 3D virtual tour, Matterport, and floor plans, which is great. Even we're doing it for rentals now because you don't know, you know, if you've researched the history of vaccines, the world record is 4 years. And the guy who found that vaccine said that he got lucky and it should have taken longer. It took 28 years to get the chickenpox vaccine. And we live with some viruses like Zika, Ebola, HIV, where we don't even have vaccines. So, you know, I'm looking at this like it's going to be good to have these floor plans and these 3D tours maybe for the next couple of years. So I'm thinking, you know, where I used to spend a couple $100, now I'm like kind of doubling it. But it doesn't matter because if you sell a home or you lease a home, like it pays for itself 10 times over. And it's great for people that are out of state too.
Oh, I love it, man. I think it's the future of like showing, because honestly, I don't want to leave my house. I want to see 10 houses from my house and like, that's it. Like, I don't want to go, you're a great guy, but I don't really want to spend a Saturday with you trucking to house to see 10 houses. And you sure as hell don't want to truck me to 10 houses. So it's like every realtor has to be thinking, all right, let me go through 10 Matterports and then narrow it down to 2 and let's go take a look at it. Right. That's the deal.
I mean, some of the stuff that's coming from the virtual world, like, is great. I was an early adopter. In 2011, when I started my team, I made this website in WordPress with one of my assistants, and we learned how to do the code, and we made one of the first Philadelphia condo directories. So we made one page for each condo, and we used IDX to pump the information in, and we had like web capture. And ever since then, I've had to be like, anytime I get an email or a text about like a new product, I have to try it. I'll spend a couple grand for 6 months and like test it out. So if it's like zip code analytics for predictive home sales, or, you know, there was text response. Like we were early adopters of like when a lead registers, you have a service that texts them and sets up the appointment. I try everything. There's people out there, I'm sure you're friends with a bunch of them that kind of are like me, but we try all the new stuff. And, you know, it's great. And some of the stuff that's changing with this industry is awesome. So being that mindset, you know, I've wondered for years, like, why the hell do we have closings still? You know, what are all these antiquated, like, concepts? So it's been really cool seeing like, all right, well, the buyers go to closing, the sellers just wish them good luck, and the agents don't really go. It's cool that we can do things digitally now, digital notary, and at least I hope some of that stays post-COVID.
I think there's a silver lining in all this. It doesn't seem like, you know, right now, but like the stuff we get to look at after that, like you said, like antiquated is a good word. There's going to be so many things that come out that make this industry more efficient in general. Just, I mean, Zoom meetings, open houses, all that kind of stuff will just change in a good way for sure. You know, people that really aren't tech savvy might feel that pain a little bit, but they'll jump on board if they're good. All the big players that we talk to, even around the country, like, you know, in different states, they all have the same theme. They will adapt. like they will adapt whether they're tech savvy or not. Most of them are tech savvy for the most part. Honestly, they're pretty in front of it. But if they're not, they don't care. They're just like, I'm going to adapt. And so I think there'll be a good silver lining coming out of all this. But in the meantime, there's some serious changes that need to happen in society, I think, in general. And honestly, really good having you on the show. I think, if I ever come back to Philly or they ever take the bars down from the streets, we should grab a drink somewhere. And yeah, that would be good.
We got to get the bars open first, right?
That's right. Get the bars open.
We're further from open now than we were last week.
Nice. So, we'll see. Hopefully everybody's good over the next, few weeks, and hopefully justice gets served as need be. And
all right, before you close it in, the winners for today, we're going to give it to Kristen Daly or Daly. I'm not sure how to say it. Kristen Daly, Thanks for your comments. And then Pam Thistle, you two have won the free swag. So send me your t-shirt size and address to ryan@hardmoneybankers.com, and we'll send you the free swag.
I have a Kristen Daly, a trivia question for you.
Okay.
A little interesting tidbit. So I started my first day in real estate with Kristen Daly on Antonio Adecan's team. It was her first day. She was fresh off the plane from Chicago. And, we started together. We both went on to have successful careers. She's a KW Philly, runs a team. I'm obviously Berkshire Hathaway, run a team. So little tidbit, but Kristen and I started the exact same day on the exact same team.
That's awesome.
That was a good day to start, it looks like, because there's a lot of many millions that have been done in the year in this industry. So that's pretty cool. So, all right, Frank, appreciate it, man. Well, I'd love to do this again. You know what I like to do? I'm going to be doing a follow-up round with everybody, like, as the world changes, right? Because over the next 6 months, because I think each time we sit down, if we sat down literally a week and a half ago, there were no rides. Today, so it's changing like that right now. So I think, and it's really good to hear from guys like you that move the market. So
I love doing this stuff. I'll come on anytime you'll have me.
I appreciate it, man. All right, we'll be in touch.
Good luck. Thanks for coming, and see you around.
Take care.
See ya.